By the way, did you know that like Diddy just like got off like on all of the like
Yeah, he was charged with something like really minor, right?
I totally forgot. Like I remember it happening, but someone was talking to me yesterday and they were like, "Yeah, Diddy's just walking free." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Isn't he in jail?" And no, he's just like someone like I have a friend who just like saw him in LA. And I'm like, "That's crazy." Like he's
Just like walking the streets.
he's just out there right now.
Why? How does he? Why does he show his face?
Cuz he doesn't care, bro, cuz it doesn't matter.
I know, but like he got off in like a court of law, but like, isn't the court of opinion like still pretty?
Yeah, bro, but
There's no way that
we're
when he
naming
walks
Clash
around,
Royale cards after him. Clearly, we're not that upset with him. like, like, like he's at the end of the day. Like, I think the worst that's gonna happen to him is some kids are gonna walk up to him and be like, "Diddy, Diddy, like your baby oil," but like no one's actually that mad at him. Like,
that's true. No, what do you also like? What are you gonna chirp at him about? I mean, that's exactly what it would be. Oh, yeah, baby.
yeah, yeah, they're like, "You Diddy signed my baby oil." Like, have you seen the video of Young Thug's lawyer talking about what thug means? They were like, "Oh, they think he's named Young Thug because he's the thug, but it's not. It's because he's truly humble under God." Like that's so hard.
Episode 1 of Fireside Fellas.
Episode 1, welcome everyone. So this is a new podcast that me and Charlie are starting up and releasing into the world because there's not enough of them out right now. And we're gonna see how it goes, and things might change as we go along and get new episode ideas. But I think we're just gonna generally talk about what we normally talk about because we talk a lot about
Yeah, we
politics.
talk a lot about politics. So the plan is to just put a microphone and a video camera in front of us while we do it, and allow the world to gain some wisdom
Yeah,
from our incredibly smart and astute and nuanced political opinion.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So what are we talking about today, Charlie?
Today we're talking about Gavin Newsom, who's obviously been in the news pretty consistently the last couple of weeks, both because of his redistricting fight with Trump and with the state of Texas, and also because of his new social media strategy, where he's just kind of spamming Trump-esque quotes, not quotes, Trump-esque tweets through his what is it? Governor press office or
Yeah,
press office account. That's getting him a lot of love from liberals and a lot of chagrin from conservatives.
yeah, that's about right. I mean, all right. I mean, you brought it up actually, so let's talk about it. Like, is that like actually having as much of an impact as everyone's saying? Like, I see CNN like going through and like Gavin Newsom's Gavin Gavin Newsom's Twitter account has grown by 600% in the last month, and I'm like, does that fucking matter? Like,
Yeah, like they're like diving into like the Google Analytics on like, his name and like Gavin Newsom 2028. Um, I mean, I don't really think you can read too much into anything when it
yeah,
comes to the 2028 presidential race. There's no primary, like these like candidate hopefuls, whether it be Newsom or someone like Ruben Gallego or JB Pritzker, they'll go to South Carolina, they'll go to Iowa, they'll go to New Hampshire. Like they're doing some type of, some events. But until the primary kicks off into full swing, I don't really think you can read too much into the 2028 race. Think about Ron DeSantis in the last primary. Like that dude was the front runner, over Trump for like quite a while. And he had so much excitement and there was so much hype and the pundits loved him and the betting markets loved him. And then the primary started and he got in front of voters and it turns out that he's totally soulless and doesn't have an ounce of charisma.
yeah.
And that was that. So
It was actually pretty incredible to watch.
it was pretty like it was really entertaining.
I realized now that you're saying like I had never actually seen him talk, and I had just like read a lot about him, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, like this guy might beat Trump or
Oh,
whatever.
this dude's terrifying. You know,
this guy,
classic.
I'd rather have Trump than DeSantis. Like so many people were saying that, and then
I might have said that at
I
one
think
point.
I actually also
Yeah,
said it, and then he's like literally has no person. I mean,
yeah.
he really needed that transplant.
He like totally doesn't have it at all.
It's yeah, and then the heels and the shoes. There was just a lot going
Yeah,
on.
there's a lot happening there.
Okay, wait, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Newsom. I think we're gonna talk about the 2028 stuff. I certainly have a lot to talk about with sort of the way that like the party at large is like handling the Newsomian moment.
Yeah, yeah,
And then we're gonna talk about the bill, the housing bill.
yeah,
All right, so I think just because it's on my mind right now, so we were talking about the primary, right?
yeah,
And I'm just gonna go right into it, which is that the thing that bothers me the most about this is that everything that Newsom is doing right now is being looked at through a lens of like 2028,
yeah,
which leads to like his supporters like glazing him to this level where I'm like, guys, can we like calm down? But then also his detractors like refusing to admit that like anything he's doing right now is good.
yeah. Well, and also there's like totally non 2028 aspects to what's to like his messaging ploy and to the redistricting fight. You know,
What
like
so what are those?
well, when you look at everything through a 2028 lens, especially for with redistricting, you're kind of missing the fact that like actually what this is about is 2026. You know,
Yeah.
we have a whole slate of elections. We have a whole midterms coming up before we even, before any candidates are even going to announce a race for 2028. And what this whole redistricting thing is really about is trying to counter Texas's decision to net try to net 5 seats in through redistricting to give Trump and Mike Johnson a little bit of a insurance policy.
Yeah.
When it comes to the 2026 midterms in the House of Representatives. Now, whether or not that will actually work in Texas, I think is honestly a little up for debate. Everyone's just kind of assuming that Texas is going to net these 5 seats and that it's totally over. Um, but pretty much all to gain those 5 seats,
Mm-hmm.
what it's really predicated on is the Republicans performing just as well with Latinos as Trump did in 2024.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a safe bet. I mean, Trump way overperformed Ted Cruz with Latino voters in like the Rio Grande Valley and in San Antonio, in some of these heavily Latino districts that Texas is creating as a result of this redistricting process.
Yeah.
And the slim amount of polling we have so far indicates that about 1/3 of Trump 2024 Latino voters are considering voting for Democrats in the midterms. So this could backfire. It really could. But kind of regardless of the entire Texas aspect of this, Gavin Newsom's redistricting ploy is really about canceling that out and giving the Democrats a better opportunity to retake the House of Representatives and get some foothold in power in Washington in 2026. The 2028 implications are almost secondary to that, even though it's the only thing being talked about.
Right. So just to back up what we're talking about here, election betting odds. Democrats have a 67.5% chance of retaking the House. Trump and Mike Johnson are pretty scared of that. The thing you're saying about the Latino voters is really interesting. The other thing is that, like, I think people need to also remember that, like, Democrats overperform in the midterms because
Yes.
typically Democratic voters are slightly more keyed in, and Trump voters in particular are slightly less keyed in.
Yeah, and this is a new development as a result of like demographic changes since 2018.
Yeah.
As Democrats get more college educated voters and lose ground with the like not the not super aware voters. There's a term for that I'm not remembering right now. And lose ground with working class voters. They gain ground they gain kind of a structural advantage in midterm elections and especially in special elections
Yeah.
because the types of voters that are going to turn out in these low turnout elections are more likely to be college educated, are more likely to be higher income, and these
Yeah.
voters are now more likely, increasingly likely to be Democrats.
Yeah. Speaking of special elections, Democrat lady just won in a Iowa state senate to break the Republican super majority. And then I saw this awesome tweet where it was like, Ann Seltzer wasn't wrong, she was just early.
Yeah.
um, okay, so I think though that like people, but this is sort of the thing about Newsom, and like so honestly, my opinions on Newsom are like really back and forth, and I'm not totally
Yeah,
sure
me too.
exactly where I land on it. Like I really struggle with him.
Yeah.
I think like what he's doing right now is clearly good, and it has propelled him to this sort of like shadow, shadow leader of the party
Yeah.
role. Whether you like that or not, and whether you think he deserves it or not, he has it because he's the one who's most publicly like combating Trump right now.
He has stepped into the power vacuum.
He's stepped into the power vacuum. And there are two sides to that. There's his side, which we'll get into in a second, but there's also the like who's not there. Obviously, yeah. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer aren't there because they both suck.
Yeah,
and
they're irrelevant. Like
they're literally like
they need to be gone.
They just need to be gone. No one knows who they are. I see these like videos of like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer doing like podcast episodes on YouTube, and like chances are this is gonna get more views than those do. Like they literally get like 120 views, and I'm like, that is the leader of the House of Representatives. Like that is the minority leader of the House of Representatives, and no one fucking cares.
Brutal watch. Hakeem Jeffries is like a wet piece of cardboard.
And Shakur.
It's rare to see someone with like less charisma and political talent as he.
Yeah, and then Chuck Schumer, like, he'd be nice if he was your grandpa, but he's just not the man for the moment, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not stepping into the vacuum. Kamala Harris just fucked off. She's just like
she's done.
She's doing her book tour. She's like, Joe Biden's eating ice cream in like Delaware.
He's not compos mentis.
No, Obama doesn't. I'm just sort of listing off the classics here. And so then there's the people who are upset about this, the progressives. So where are the progressives? Like, I love I love my boy Bernie, and he's doing these amazing oligarchy tours around the country or whatever. But at the end of the day, he's 80 million years old. He can't.
Yeah.
He's not going to step into this role. We've been waiting.
He's still doing something. He just endorsed Graham Plattner in Maine. I think that's a very important endorsement.
We have to do an episode about Graham Plattner, bro.
We will. Actually, my next Substack piece is going to be somewhat about him.
Okay, good.
So we'll definitely be talking about that.
Okay. So then it's like, okay, AOC, like we've been waiting for years. And, if you follow her on Instagram, you're like, great, she's like really active. But like, other than that, it's like, am I missing something? Like, I just feel like, this is the opportunity. Like, this is the power vacuum.
Yeah, I think she got off to an extremely strong start with this like anti-oligarchy tour she went on with Bernie. And that gave her a huge amount of momentum. She was up in the 2028 primary polls. She was up in the election betting markets. And I don't want to put too much emphasis on that because like I was saying earlier, like I think it doesn't really matter. But it is a bellwether for like who is a leader of this party.
Yeah.
And she was performing really well in that. And it seems like in the last couple of months she's lost a little bit of this momentum. She really gained progressives' ire with some comments about the war in Gaza.
I feel like she does that all the time. Which one was it?
You know what? I'm gonna have to check myself right now.
Nah, that's okay.
But Ro Khanna is a name that I've been seeing more and more. He's been kind of
Yeah.
traveling across the country and like, speaking in Pennsylvania and New Hampshire and
Yeah.
South. I think he might have went to South Carolina. He's been going to some of these early primary states, uh, and I really like him later on. But he's just not a big enough name right now to like.
I was gonna say like I like him, but
Yeah, he's not a big enough name to like kind of counteract the forces of Newsom. Um, so I think Newsom's rise is kind of giving the more moderate wing of the party a lot of hope right now that they're going to win this like intra-party struggle.
I agree. Which, you know, if you're asking me, and this is half of my podcast, so I am asking me, is not good. That's not the correct answer.
Yeah,
um, there are things that I like about Newsom, but also, he has a long history of sort of slowing down progressive goals in California. I like the way he talks.
he has a
Like
very mixed record.
he's a very mixed
He's
record.
extremely charismatic.
Inext-
He has it. He has the he
yeah.
has the political it that you need to win a presidential election, and that's
yes,
really important. That
yes,
done, and he's
yes.
showing that through this whole like messaging and like redistricting battle right now.
Okay, my only thought on that is like I totally agree with you. He really has it like
Yeah.
for the Democratic base. Like
Yeah.
he will rally the like he has the charisma for Democrats. My concern is like the more independent voters. My concern is that he comes off as very calculating, very sort of like snake oil salesman, like trying to sell you something. Like his hair's slicked back. He's very charismatic, but to the point where it almost feels like he's like rehearsed every single piece before talking to you.
Yeah.
I think it's charismatic, but like my concern is like Tucker from Illinois. Like is Tucker from Illinois gonna be like, yeah, man, like this guy's hot as fuck.
Yeah, like
I think he's actually gonna be like, ooh, like
yeah, I think he's probably more likely to be seen as like a politician, and like, oh, he's so slick, he's so like,
right.
It's like he's not, he doesn't have the authenticity of
right
that
so,
people tend to demand in politicians nowadays.
Well, so this has sort of been my take the entire time since 2024, which was only a year ago. But that like I don't think like a career politician is going to be able to win in 2028. Like on the Democratic side. Like I think they could get the nomination, but I think they'll lose to Vance. Assuming it is Vance.
I think Vance is a much scarier candidate than liberals are going to give him credit for.
I agree.
Yeah.
I also the other thing though is like, okay, so if it's not going to be an establishment politician, it's going to be someone that comes out of nowhere, like Trump did, and that's just the kind of person we're not going to be able to find until they show up. Like that's probably going to come out in the primary. And the thing about Newsom though is that like he sort of, to like you and me, he's been well known for a while, but the sort of like surge in traffic is proof that like if you just do something impressive, like you'll get the support. Like that's people sort of my thing.
Someone to do anything.
People just want someone to do it. Like this is why I'm currently a little frustrated with like the more progressives. Like sure, Ro Khanna is a great example of like somebody that nobody knows. No one knows
something though.
Well, so what do you think he's doing?
He's just always out there. Like he goes on a lot of podcasts. He's always on like the kind of cable news circuit on the weekends.
Yeah.
He's doing like, these kind of speaking tours and like early primaries. He's setting himself up for a presidential run. But he also like really tries extremely hard to put his voice out there. And to break through it's very different for someone like Ro Khanna to break through the kind of media like ecosystem and reach a lot of people when he's a congressman, just one of 435 in the House of Representatives, versus when Newsom is the governor of the biggest state in the country.
It's true.
He kind of has he's a built-in advantage there.
That's true. He has built-in I mean, literally built-in workers, built-in people to like do help him with his work.
Yeah.
I do think though that like the social media stuff is a great example of like, I mean, you could make those tweets. Like I guess I'm just trying like on on the grand scale of like lives actually made better. Like Newsom's tweets aren't doing that much, if
No.
anything at all. They're doing nothing actually. But but that's almost sort of like secondary to like what it means to like fill the power vacuum of like what's going on in the party. Like like it's like he's sort of just being loud.
Yeah.
And like sometimes that's enough. And I think that like I guess I just personally wish that like the people who I like in the party were being louder. Like I love what Bernie's doing. I
Yeah.
love that he's doing these tours and stuff. But I also wish he was being like a little more obviously like all caps, like, you know, kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the tweets are like, it's a great kind of like very obvious example showing like, the Fox News' hypocrisy about like Trump and his messaging style and blah, blah, blah. But, this is like, it's not going to make a difference over time. Like this is not going to be like kind of a huge thing. Are they funny to read? Are they like, is it great satire? Like 100%, totally. But what's really going to matter come the 2028 primary is not Newsom's tweets or even like his fight. I mean, his fight with redistricting might matter a little bit,
Yeah.
but what's really going to matter is what he does about housing in California and
Yeah.
whether or not he's able to make any meaningful progress on the housing crisis in the state and by extension the homelessness crisis in the state.
Yeah.
And all candidates are going to have to do this, whether or not they can successfully show that they are not the candidate of the status quo. And Newsom is going to have a much harder time doing that because he's a two-term governor of California. He is known as a big member of the party, and the party is not popular right now. Nobody likes the party. He's gonna have to simultaneously kind of make some enemies and show that he is different and show that he is trying something new, and he's gonna have to make some serious progress on housing, or else he's gonna go before voters in his inevitable presidential run, and they're gonna be like, wait, like you were a two-term governor of California, and the housing crisis, it was around the second you got there, and it wasn't any better when you left. Like, how are we going to trust you to reduce housing costs as president? And that's going to be that. No amount of tweets is going to save him.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to the fact that swing voters are concerned with change, and they're concerned with the cost of living, and they're concerned with, hey, are you going to be able to make a kind of material difference in my life?
Yeah.
And are you going to be able to separate, to kind of bring America into an age that isn't this kind of age of, kind of the vapid neoliberalism and just kind of giving me a bunch of consumer goods and goodies? And are you actually going to be able to make my life better through like housing and education and healthcare and like the big things that politics is meant to address?
Yeah. I mean, I think New York mayoral election really shows it's housing right now.
Exactly.
It's housing.
It is housing. Housing is everything right now.
So housing is Newsom's Achilles heel right now. You want to intro us into what he's doing about it, if anything?
Yeah, so I mean that kind of gets us into what Newsom has done about housing, and it gets us into California's Senate Bill 79, which I'll explain. So Newsom and the California legislature have passed a bunch of kind of smaller housing bills, and they've appropriated a lot of funding towards housing. But some of these smaller housing bills include legalizing. This was in LA. Oh shoot, what is it called? Accessory dwelling units, which are like little kind of houses, little kind of like 1 or 2 room units that people can build on their property and rent out. It was kind of initially pitched as like like a kind of cheap, a way to build more cheap housing. You know, it's not very big, but it can, you know, help with the homelessness crisis. Um, People have been building accessory dwelling units, but it's just not a big enough policy. But that is something that's been done. Earlier in the summer, Newsom signed a couple different kind of permitting reforms, and some some zoning reforms as well. Uh, this was kind of a response to like the initial kind of excitement around the abundance agenda. Um, this was like streamlined environmental review for housing and infrastructure projects. Um, he signed an expanded permit streamlining act, which kind of streamlined permits, housing permits specifically on the coasts. Uh, he froze residential building standards through 2031, which kind of provides more like what's the word? Kind of regulatory certainty for builders, which is helpful when it comes to like planning longer term development projects. But the big thing, and this is really going to show if he's serious about housing, the big thing is California's Senate Bill 79, which is currently being discussed in the state legislature right now. And what this bill does is it kind of it creates state level zoning rules that override local zoning rules in transit oriented areas. And how the bill defines transit oriented areas is if you're like, you know, a block away or like, you know, a quarter mile away from like a major transit hub, you can build 9 stories. If you're like a little bit further away, you can build 8 stories. If you're like up to half a mile away, you know, like the third tier, you can build 7 stories. So it's kind of an anti-single family housing bill to create more dense residential housing around transit hubs. But the way in which they define a transit hub is so vast that like 70% of urban areas like fall into it. You know, like a really large portion of the state would suddenly see a seriously more lax zoning environment. And this is a huge. This is like California YIMBY's like #1 bill. This would be a huge deal. And Newsom so far has not said anything about this bill. But if it were to pass, it would make a pretty serious dent in a lot of in the housing crisis in California, and it would also allow much more people to live closer to transit hubs, and it would make a dent in kind of the low ridership that California's seen with public transit, and also the budget deficits that California's public transit agencies are facing. So this is the big deal. He hasn't said anything yet.
Well, so I saw that like Karen Bass came out against it, and I think he's getting some pressure to come out against it. Okay, convince me. Okay, convince me. Convince me why it's a big deal. Because I will say that, like, so I read Abundance. I did it.
Yeah.
Took me a long time, but I did it. And, you know, the YIMBYs, like, I think it's, from what I've read about it, and from what you sent me, positive overall.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about, though, is the, like, if you give private developers more leeway. Like a big part of the Abundance book itself was that government sucks at building.
Yeah.
But not because government innately sucks at building, but because government is hamstrung. This bill to me doesn't de-hamstring government, it de-hamstrings private developers, which is why I'm concerned about like what's going to stop those 8-story buildings next to, you know, the subway station or whatever from just being like luxury apartments?
Well, a couple things. So, as a part of the bill, you can get like extra streamlined environmental review and like permitting reforms if you agree to like certain affordability kind of thresholds. Like if a certain number of like units in the apartment are like deemed as affordable, you know, if the entire building itself is like an affordable housing project, you get even like, or if you agree to like use union labor, union construction labor, if you agree to pay prevailing wages to construction workers, you get kind of like extra streamlined environmental permits
Mm-hmm.
and all that good stuff. So that's one incentive for developers to kind of build housing projects that align with other progressive goals. But the kind of like the like what is really going to stop them from building just like market rate luxury housing? Nothing. And that is something that makes a lot of like progressives and a lot of people very concerned with affordable housing um, pretty kind of uncomfortable. And logically, that makes sense. It's like, oh, they're going to build a bunch of luxury housing. No one's going to be able to benefit from that, of course. But the economic evidence on this question is actually tells a very different story. Um, there's been a bunch of different economic studies that have come out that show that even when developers build out a lot of market rate housing, what ends up happening is that the more kind of the more wealthy people who otherwise would move into like lower income neighborhoods or move into like older buildings, instead of doing that, they move into these like nice buildings. They move into these nice luxury new buildings. And as a result, pressures on rent in like older neighborhoods or in lower income neighborhoods fall because all of a sudden, all of these like, rich people who can afford higher rents, instead of like competing with a low income renter for these, for one kind of portion of housing, they all just move to like these new luxury apartments. So it does create a pretty it creates an economic effect that lowers rents regardless of whether the market is for luxury housing or for lower income housing. And in fact, there's some economic evidence that shows that rents reduce for lower income housing even more than for luxury
Mm-hmm.
housing, even when a lot of luxury housing is built. Um, so that's kind of one piece of this. We actually seen this process play out in the real world. Both Minneapolis and Austin, Texas, have passed, or Minneapolis passed a huge slate of zoning reforms and other YIMBY policies that led to a boom in apartment housing construction. And the result was that I have this pulled up from 2017 to 2022. The Minneapolis housing stock grew 12%,
Mm-hmm.
rent only increased 1%, and homelessness fell 12%, compared to a national average of the housing stock growing only 4%, rent growing 14%, and homelessness increasing 14%.
Yeah.
So it shows that like the crux of the problem with housing is a lack of supply. And when you address that lack of supply, even if it's through market rate housing, you still kind of, at the very minimum, you create downward kind of pressure on rent increases, which in the long run and in the medium run allow housing to be more affordable. And in the short run, it seems from the example of Minneapolis and also from the example of Austin, where an apartment home building boom that occurred right after population growth from COVID led to rents falling in the city for 19 months straight,
Mm-hmm.
including for low income housing. So it's just kind of the reality of the situation would be if this bill passes and it leads to an explosion in home building in California, there's going to be market wide effects.
Yeah. I mean, that's promising.
You're skeptical?
I'm skeptical. I'm
Yeah.
skeptical. All right, let me give you the first reason I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because here in New York, you know, great example, like Billionaires Row, Central Park South,
Yeah.
huge skyscrapers. 50% of those units are completely empty. Either they're empty because they're owned by like dudes in Russia, which is its own thing, or they're empty because no one's bought them. And I guess I'm concerned that like in New York in the last 15, really in like post 9/11 New York, there has been a huge, huge boom of these humongously expensive and glass towers, just everywhere, glass towers. Um, and I guess I don't feel like the residents of New York City are feeling like that's trickling down to
Yeah,
like less pressure elsewhere. Now, California is also unique because people are leaving the state rather
yeah,
than coming into it. But I guess I'm concerned that, like, okay, like if you do start to fix this problem and people stop leaving the state, does that like end up putting more pressure back on those areas? I guess I also just think that like we're in this really unique moment of like, you know, Trump and like what the Republicans are doing to the country is so bad and so
yeah,
damaging that we're in this really unique moment where it's like, wow, we really can do anything. Like we
yeah.
can, like Newsom in particular, California. I mean, they don't have a supermajority, but they're close, or they might have a supermajority.
They might. I'm not exactly sure.
They're either way, they're close.
It's a one-party state.
It's a one. Thank you. It's a one-party state. Like the article you sent me, showed like Tom Steyer being like, no bill is perfect, but this one will get good stuff done. But I'm like, but you could make it more perfect. Like the thing that irks me is
Mm-hmm.
that I don't feel like it would be hard to like attach provisions to this bill to just uh, ease some of the progressive concerns.
Yeah.
But they're not being attached, and I'm worried they're not being attached for a reason.
Well, I think that you can just look at some of like the previous housing bills that Newsom has signed that direct a huge amount of funding towards the construction of affordable housing, and there's so many strings attached that you end up with a situation where it's like, the average cost is like $400,000 per unit or whatever, and
Mm.
you might get some small amount of affordable housing that is like perfectly environmentally friendly, that like uh everyone who worked on the project was paid the prevailing wage. uh some like incredible architect designed the building to ease local residents concerns about appearance.
Right.
But the more things you add, the less housing you get. It is what we've seen in California the last like 10 years, even with huge investments in affordable
Mm-hmm.
housing. So I think that this bill does have a couple of things. It has these you know expanded uh, it has extra fast track permitting if you use like certain affordability safeguards, certain labor safeguards,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But I do want to respond to a couple of those concerns, a couple of the concerns you stated, because I think that they're very interesting. Um, there's, I think that one, going to the New York example, I think that the scope of this bill would prevent that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
This like the amount of new area that would be available for development and the amount of new housing that could create, it would create a situation like there's the sheer volume of new housing is far more than like a handful of huge apartment complexes going up on like Central Park South or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this would be a statewide zoning reform bill that would affect all cities, you know, Oakland, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, everywhere in the state. You, developers would suddenly have an opportunity to build far more like kind of it's usually mid-rise housing like 7, 8, 9 stories. So there's kind of like there's a scale situation here where like if like one or two really big luxury apartment buildings come up, okay, like that doesn't make a huge difference. If a huge number of luxury apartment buildings go up along with a huge number of like just kind of regular market rate medium level luxury apartment buildings come up,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you're actually going to make a meaningful dent in the supply issue. And I think that's kind of where I see this bill is really succeeding is the problem California is facing is that they don't build enough housing. This bill would lead to them building enough housing. So that's just kind of that. the one other thing I would add is I think it is a legitimate concern that these kind of zoning reform bills and these permitting reform bills um, wouldn't create enough affordable housing at the very, very lowest level, wouldn't lead to, um, enough housing for like the bottom 10%
Yeah.
of, wage earners in the country. And I think that's somewhere where government could step in with like a public housing bill that is directly pitched at the very lowest income renters to make sure that nobody falls through the gaps in uh, uh, in this legislation. But government can't really step in with a public housing bill until there's zoning and permitting reform,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise it's going to take fucking 8 years for any affordable housing to be built, and it's going to be built at such a high cost that they're not going to be able to build enough units. Like, this is kind of the precursor bill to anything else that you can do about housing in California.
Interesting. Okay.
That's kind of how I see it.
No, that's very interesting. I guess then my like logical next step is like, okay, where's the next bill? Either where's the next bill or why isn't it attached to this one? Um,
I think that this bill is already politically dicey.
yeah,
I think that's probably why it's not attached. It's already going to be hard to pass this bill. Karen Bass has come out against it. The LA City Council has come out against it.
is it have they said why?
Um, it's about like local control.
Right. Oh, I wanted to talk about that.
They're saying that LA already has like a whole housing plan, and they want that housing plan to be like grandfathered into this bill instead of have their like
Right.
zoning standards be overridden by this
Right.
bill. But Oakland's mayor, Barbara Lee, has come out in favor of this.
Yeah.
Um,
She's like, great, less work for me.
so yeah, so like it's splitting up the Democratic coalition.
Right. Okay. Really fast. You know, Newsom was chirping and very upset in the way that like Trump's federal government has been overstepping its bounds and trying to control the state of California.
Yeah.
This bill does that at a more local level, right? Like it is the state government like overriding like townships.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I just think that's interesting. Like I'm
I
not
think so too.
I took the political compass test. Like I wasn't authoritarian, but like I wasn't not. Like I am pro strong government. And at the end of the day, like that personally doesn't bother me. That being said, like local government and state governments and governors are like the only thing stopping the Trump administration right now. And like the only thing that's like keeping Trump from really enacting his entire agenda. And so I think someone who is more concerned than me about that would have a really good argument to make, being like, hey, this bill takes power away from like localities.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like these types of zoning reform bills really kind of get at like an interesting like macro democracy question, where there's a there's a small d democratic desire for democracy at the local level. Like people in their neighborhoods want democratic control over their neighborhoods. There's a larger state level and national level democratic desire for cheaper housing.
Yeah.
And those two things kind of conflict with each other. Like
Yeah.
the last kind of 10 years have shown that you can't really have the strong democratic control over local neighborhoods and local towns while also having the democratic like while also addressing the democratic desire for for a huge investment in housing and a lot of kind of housing coming up and therefore cheaper housing. Those two things kind of conflict.
They do.
So it's kind of an interesting question. It's like, are you going to address are you gonna side with like extremely localized democracy, even at the expense of more expensive housing at the
Yeah.
macro level, or are you gonna respond to a statewide desire for more and cheaper housing, even if it overrides local neighborhoods, kind of concerns about the quality of their neighborhood, about the character
Yeah.
of that?
I mean, this is a well documented American phenomenon where
Yeah,
polls show taxpayers don't want to pay more taxes, but they want more services that could only be funded by more taxes.
yes,
You know,
yes, exactly. Yeah,
we want less strong government, but we want government to provide universal health care.
yeah,
And I think, you know, I think some I think some people would incorrectly be like, it's because people are stupid and don't understand. What I really think is that like people are very, and this is a part of abundance that I agree with, that like people are just very used to big government being super ineffective,
yeah.
and so they like want it to provide things, but they don't trust it to. And so I think that like people are very pro local government because local government is basically the only thing in the last like 40 years of American policy that has actually been effective at doing anything for like people's daily lives.
Yeah,
You know, and at the end of the day, like me, Isaac, and you, Charlie, our day to day lives are way more affected by the New York City Council than they are probably even Trump. Like, like on the day to day, and it's different, based off of who you are, like who you are and what your place is in America. But like, local government is what has been working, and I do think there's an argument to be made that like, if this bill is successful and it goes through and the state takes some power away from the localities but like does a really good job, then it can start to change people's minds on like, okay,
yeah,
like, maybe big government can actually do some stuff. People really
yeah,
liked the government in 1942
yeah.
when it was able to build at just an incredible level
I
and it
mean,
was able to do a lot of things.
I would love to see California or like the federal government make some huge investment in like affordable housing and public housing, and
Yeah.
like kind of make a big push to end homelessness, make a big push to you know make rents more affordable. But I just don't think that that's possible for government to do until you address some of these zoning and permitting issues.
Yeah.
Because I mean, California is the best example. They have invested a lot of money since Newsom became governor in affordable housing. And the money doesn't go anywhere because it all has to go to like
Court
lawyers,
battles and all of that.
environmental reviews. It all goes to um, it goes to well-known, it goes to architects um, to design like beautiful low-rise apartment complexes that meet with a local town council's approval.
Yeah.
Like there's only you can't we don't if we want the California government or the federal government to make some huge investment in affordable housing, public housing, which I do. First things first, you need to make it possible for them to actually build that housing and like make that investment go a long enough ways. And I think that starts with a bill like California Senate Bill 79. And um and there's a place in this. The kind of economic evidence indicates that there's a big place in this for private housing too and market rate housing. Like there's a market wide effect of building more market rate housing where the kind of tech bros who move into San Francisco, instead of going to like some historic neighborhood and like getting like an older apartment there, they'll move into like one of the new big glass apartments in in closer to their work, and that puts downward pressure on the neighborhood that they would otherwise have moved into. You need to compare this bill to the alternative, which as of now is no bill.
Right.
Um, so I kind of think that, to bring this back to Newsom, I think this kind of is a real bellwether bill for Newsom that kind of indicates, okay, how serious are you really about the housing crisis? And are you going to kind of confront your biggest weakness politically you're the biggest obstacle between you and the Democratic nomination in 2028 in a big way. And, coming out in favor of this bill and signing this bill would do that.
Yeah, unless it doesn't work.
Unless the bill doesn't work.
If it doesn't, if it doesn't work, he's cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's. This is a great place to end the episode, which is like, let's say you've convinced me like a lot of things. I'm like still concerned about it, and like, but like I like a lot about it. Let's say the bill works. It's probably not gonna fix housing in California. Let's say it really helps.
Yeah.
What are Newsom's chances?
It's a tough question. He's got the it factor. He's a good looking guy, as Trump loves to say. He's a smart guy, even though apparently he can't really read. Do you know that?
Newsom can't read?
Yeah, he's got like really bad dyslexia.
Oh, I actually did know he has dyslexia.
Yeah. But he's kind of
he can't read the teleprompter, really, right? So he's like
yeah. He's just like always riffing. But he's clearly quick on his feet.
Yeah, he is.
He's got the charisma.
He hates Republicans. Like people want that right now.
Yeah. I think he would have a good chance, but he's also too associated with. He's too hated by progressives. He's too associated with the Democratic establishment. He's too associated with the status quo. And I think that those are the weaknesses that he really needs to address in the next couple of years. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like when you were saying, like his biggest weakness is housing. Like it's true to California voters. Like I think his biggest weakness is that he's like the photo. He's like the image that ChatGPT would give you if you were like combine every Democratic representative into like one man, and like it's like him. And I'll be honest, like I don't like his policies, but I think he's a charming guy. Like I think he's clearly charming.
Yeah.
I just think he's such a Democrat, and I think like
that's a problem. It's a problem.
It's a problem. It's a problem for me. It's a problem for basically the entire country right now because Democrats are so fucking unpopular. They have like a 29% approval rating or something like that. I mean, it's absurd. The Democratic Party hates the Democratic Party. I just don't think a Democrat is gonna win shit in 2028.
You don't look at Newsom and you're gonna go, that dude's gonna like change everything.
No.
And that's what people want. And that's the type of like persona that you need to have.
Right. And that's why I don't like this sort of like Newsomian moment. Yeah. Because it's like Democrats and I think independents and lots of people are so hungry for a fighter right now. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like whether you like Newsom or not, he's a bulldog. Like he is a fighter. He's not scared. He will. I do think he will like put himself in between California and Trump, like
which is a big plus for him.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Which a lot of progressives aren't.
And not just politically. Like that matters morally.
Morally,
it matters that he's not just gonna roll over.
Everything. He is not a roller. He's a fighter. That's great. Democrats want that so badly right now. And he's sort of look, he is the governor of the fourth biggest economy in the world. Like, he has a particular pedestal to do this from. But he's sort of the only one doing it, People don't care about, 17-hour speeches on the Senate floor by Cory Booker, bro. Like, the Hamilton Democratic moment is over. Like Jeffries and Cory Booker, these guys, their day is through.
Has Hamilton done irreparable damage to Democratic politics? Maybe that should be our next podcast.
If I see one more 12+ hour speech where it's like, oh my god, he's doing so much, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind.
Well, okay, so I made a very kind of long case for why I think that if Newsom wants to succeed in 2028, it's going to be all about housing, and by extension, it's going to be about this housing bill, California Senate Bill 79.
Yeah.
What do you think he needs to do to turn the maps and to turn the tweets momentum into a serious kind of like
Yeah,
successful candidacy.
I think he needs to pick. I think this is what for the record, every Democrat needs to do, and they never do it. He needs to pick
Mm-hmm.
three policies, and never shut up about them.
Yeah,
I mean, like whether you like him or not, the Mamdani effect. Choose three things: freezing
yeah,
the rent, free buses, low income housing. Pick
yeah.
three things, never shut up about them, and you win. My concern with Newsom is that he goes on these talk shows and he talks the big talk, and then when he's asked about specifics, he's very elusive. My
Yeah.
concern is that, like, once he wins, it's like, if he doesn't promise anything, then you can't hold him to anything if we give him the nomination. You know what I'm saying?
It's
I think,
impossible to tell what he really stands for and where he is ideologically.
and voters are very good at sniffing that out.
Yes.
Like, people give voters,
No,
I mean,
no, I to this day I can't say what she represented and what she wanted to do
she represented nothing.
because it was nothing. And if Newsom, it's like, oh, like, he's like photographed like cleaning up a homeless shelter, or not homeless, like a homeless camp, and it's like, oh my god, like this dude is like, like a total hawk on like homelessness and public safety. He's like a moderate. He's on the right. At the same time, he expanded like universal health coverage in the state for undocumented immigrants, but like now he's considering taking that away. It's like I have no idea what this dude actually would do as president.
Right.
And I think that's the problem.
It's his biggest problem. It's his biggest problem because whether voters pay attention or not, it does not take a long time for them to figure out whether somebody like means what they're saying.
Yeah.
And with Trump, he's a liar. He doesn't stand for anything. Like, he's done everything he said he was going to do. Like, at the end of the day,
it's obvious.
It's obvious what he's going to do, and he doesn't hide it. And you can say he sort of lies a lot, and he does, but you always know what his end goal is. I just think that like a Democrat, I just think it is so clear that the moment is calling for like choose three policies and just never shut up about them.
Yeah.
Or just like say the exact. People are so hungry for change.
And choose three progressive policies.
Yeah.
Don't choose fucking $50,000 tax deductions for small.
Oh my god, bro.
Don't choose. What else did she have?
Get a housing voucher if you're under $120,000.
Yeah,
under
don't
three
choose
people per
a
home.
$25,000 tax deduction for first-time home buyers if your income is under 100. Like choose like Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Choose like a nationwide investment in like affordable housing combined with permitting reform to make it possible to do in 4 years.
And that is enough if you're a moderate. Like, Newsom is clearly not a genuine progressive. If he's a moderate on most issues, but chooses three issues to be highly progressive on, that is enough. That is enough to get him across. Like, it's not enough for me, like, morally, but it's enough to get him across the finish line.
And you need to remember who the swing voters of today are. Because a lot, the type of Democratic consultants that are in Newsom's camp are the type of people who still imagine that we're living in this moment of like a left-right political access where people agree on the basic facts, and the way to win elections is to get all those swing voters in the middle who are like who can't decide.
Republicans.
Yeah,
they're there. They exist.
Those voters don't exist. They aren't real. If 2024 showed us anything, it's that the real swing voters today are low-income voters who are low-information voters who tune in for the presidential election and who say, hey, my economic situation is bad. It's getting worse. I can't afford rent. The price of groceries is increasing. Who is going to change things?
Yes. And if you do not believe that, if you don't believe what Charlie is saying right now, look at the New York City mayoral election polls on the Republican side. you will see that Zoran Mamdani is polling above Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams among Republicans.
Yes. No, and or like, look at that. Look at the fact that Kamala Harris created a Big Tent from Dick Cheney
Oh
to
my God.
Bernie Sanders in 2024. That was her tent. You couldn't imagine she fucking pulled up with Liz Cheney everywhere. She made
Oh my God.
all the appeals to these moderate Republicans, to these centrist swing voters. Ooh. And she got fucking destroyed because she lost low turnout voters by a lot. And she lost a lot of ground with low-income minority voters. She lost ground with working class voters. Yeah. She lost voters under $50,000, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe under 100.
The only demographic she won was 200K above.
Yeah. And because it's
not good.
It's not about creating a Big Tent. And Newsom needs to remember that before he tries to like pivot towards the center or something, for his presidential election. Don't do that. Sign this housing bill. Sign him, come out in favor of Medicare. Do something big. Do something that changes things.
Yeah, people like big and bold. People like big and bold. And if you and this is by the way, this has been the case for a while. Like 2008 Obama, and he was not a very progressive president, but he ran a very progressive 2008 campaign. 2008 Obama got between 2 and 3 times as many moderate Republicans as Kamala Harris did.
Yes.
Like,
also like winning so many working class voters and so many like union voters that like he won Indiana.
Yeah. The takeaway from this episode is the moderate Republicans don't exist.
Nobody has ever been better at winning Republicans than Donald Trump.
No. Yeah.
Nobody. The populist right wins the right. Stop doing this moderate Republican fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Dude, I was thinking, all right, we're basically done. So I was just
but yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking about this, and I was just like, Trump is the biggest political figure in the last, I think probably since FDR. Reagan, maybe. Like, he
was a big deal, kind of.
Who?
Nixon and LBJ were big deals because of Vietnam, and LBJ with the Great Society.
Reagan wasn't Reagan post LBJ and Nixon?
Yeah, but I'm just like, just like saying big.
You're assumption in the wall.
Yeah.
I just he is so this whole Trump is an anomaly thing is so adorable when you actually consider the fact that he is a behemoth in American politics. American history of the world will remember Trump as it is his era. It is him.
Yes. And you're not an anomaly when you're kind of single-handedly fostering in a political realignment.
Yeah.
Where it's all of a sudden you are the one who's creating huge shifts in Latino and Asian American voters to the right. You're the one who for the first time since FDR is having Republicans win the working class. That's not an anomaly. You're fostering in a new political order.
And this is the thing
Democrats need to recognize that before they capitulate to that Trump created order with centrist nonsense and do what Clinton did with Reagan. It's not just about winning one election. It's about not having Trumpism be the thing for 40 years.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's Clinton was all right, I guess Reaganism is it. You don't have to do that. You can create an alternative method. And this is the thing, ending here. Democrats are always you go on Twitter and it's Democrats making fun of people with their Trump stickers or whatever. And it's dog, if there was a Democrat who was as powerful and as much of a sky god figure as Trump is, we'd all have his fucking sticker on our car, dude. Good for them, man. They literally have the greatest political figure in the last 50 years of America.
Oh, someone's excited about a politician. Wow, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, that's what it is. I actually think Democrats are jealous. It's this sort of belittling of oh, your entire car is Trump themed, your Trump wedding. I think they're jealous, dude. And you want to know?
Wedding?
Have you not seen that?
No, no, send
Yeah,
that to me.
there's a bride wearing a Trump dress, and like everything is Trump.
No. Oh
Yeah,
yes, send that to me
I'll send it to you.
right
All right. This is a great. This is a great first episode.
now. First episode. We hit electoral
um,
politics. We hit wonky, YIMBY, abundance housing bullshit.
yeah, dude. I didn't even get to go on my Ezra Klein rant. I'll have to save that for next time.
We'll have plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities.
Yeah.
No,
Long story short,
this isn't going anywhere.
I know. My Ezra Klein rant. Long story short is that I think he's correct 3 years later after everybody else.
Abundance, abundance isn't going anywhere, and also like our extremely like, do I like it, do I not like it, opinions about abundance also aren't like, I'm not gonna make a decision about that book anytime.
No, neither. All right, yeah. So give us a rating wherever you listen.
Yep.
Follow us on Instagram, which I'm gonna make soon after
Yep.
this episode is edited.
Follow us on TikTok.
YouTube.
Follow our Substacks, which we will link in
Ooh,
any of the social
in
media.
the description. Charlie and I both have a Substack. We write nice stuff.
I write for the American Prospect. Go check out the American Prospect. Although in 13 days, I will no longer be writing for the American Prospect.
In 13 days, fuck the American Prospect.
No, no.
No, sorry.
I love the American Prospect.
Sorry, in 13 days, rehire Charlie for the American Prospect.
No, I've actually been reading the American Prospect for like 8 years. I actually
No, great.
go check out the
The American Prospect.
even like not about my writing. But in 13 days, I'll let y'all know who else you can find my writing.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, love y'all.